This week on the podcast, we are talking swing decisions. More specifically, how to help hitters make better swing decisions. My name is Patrick Jones, and I'm a former hitting coach in the Baltimore Orioles organization. Now I work with hitters in person in Cincinnati, Ohio, and remotely around the country. So today, the way this episode is going to be lined up is we're first going to talk about the definition, the rulebook definition of the strike zone, how that's a little bit different depending on the level that you're at. I'm going to give you some examples of major league hitters who have improved their in-game production by changing their swing decisions over the past year. And then lastly, I'm going to give you some specific things you can do via drills and other things to help your hitters improve their swing decisions. So if we break this down and make it as simple as possible, what is making a good swing decision? It's swinging at strikes. Okay, it's swinging at strikes, and then it's not swinging at balls. That's as simple as we can make it. Swinging at strikes, not swinging at balls. And it's going to look a little bit different as what exactly the rule book definition of the strike zone is, depending at the level. But for most of the levels, it's the same. We're Major League Baseball, NCAA, high school. The top part of the strike zone is the midpoint between the top of the shoulders and the pant line. So think just above the belly button. And then the bottom part of the zone is just beneath the kneecap. And then the only difference at the little league level is the top of the zone is the batter's armpits, and then the bottom part of the zone is the top of the knees. Now, you may be wondering, is that going to be the exact same height no matter how tall the hitter is? And the answer is no, because it's supposed to be at the umpire's discretion of what the zone is going to be, and they're supposed to base that off of the batter's stance. So the batter's stance is how the umpire is supposed to view the strike zone. So if they're standing a little bit taller versus more hunched over, that's how they're going to view. Because think about it, if you're standing up tall, your knees are going to be a little bit more upright as well as your upper body versus if you're slanted over. And so that's how they dictate the top part and bottom part of the zone is the hitter's stance. The one thing that does remain the same is how wide the strike zone is. So it's 17 inches wide. At least it's supposed to be. I'm sure at the younger levels, it's probably closer to 20 inches, which I understand because the game would be there. We'd be going on forever. But it's supposed to be 17 inches wide. And then I thought there'd be no better way to begin this presentation than to talk about the king of swing decisions. And the king of swing decisions is Barry Bonds. And I was just watching an interview with Barry Bonds, and one of the things that he had said in this interview, because the person interviewing him asked him about breaking the home run record, and she asked, did you know what pitch was coming? He said, yes, I did. And she asked how. He goes, well, I could just tell by the pitcher's body language. And then he even started to dive a little bit deeper and said, I had seen that same pattern for so many times in my entire career. He said, I just had it in my memory bank. And so what that made me realize is just the best hitters are the best predictors, because a lot of the time, especially the more and more experience you get, your brain picks up those patterns if you pay attention. And that's what Barry talked about, is how he was so observant even at a young age, and just always trying to pick up pitchers' tendencies. And then you just keep storing more and more things in that memory bank. And that allows you to be able to take pitches right out of the gate like these above. So the best hitters are the best predictors. And because they're able to predict where the ball is going to go right after release point, the pitch shape, any tendencies the pitcher has. And that's why, in my opinion, Barry Bonds is the best. Now, at the same time, I also like to tell that even the best hitters look foolish at the plate. And it's important to show clips like this, because I think at times we forget that the best hitters fail and can fail bad at times. And I like to show hitters this because I think what affects swing decisions at a younger age is hitters are afraid to look bad. They're afraid to look bad. And so understanding that even the players at the highest level look bad and swing at pitches in the World Series like Barry Bonds did at his almost at his head right here is going to happen. And that's okay. It's okay. What matters is how you respond to that. The next thing is the importance of movement from a swing decision standpoint. not from the stance of why you may think. I think movement is very important for a lot of reasons, but I think that the main thing is just confidence. If you're confident in your swing, you're going to make better swing decisions. Now, the second part is the better your bat pat, the earlier your bat gets in the zone, and the longer it stays in the zone, the more time you have to not be, the more of a range you have to be on time, and your margin for errors is going to be a little bit bigger. And so that's why it is important to have good mechanics, a good bat path, because it's going to buy you some time, and it's going to allow you to make a swing decision a little bit later, because you can make it later because you have a good bat path and good mechanics. And then the next thing is going to be game planning. We'll talk a little bit more specifically about game planning towards the end of this episode, but it's very important. It helps hitters understand how the pitcher is going to attack them, the pitcher's strengths, how he attacks in certain counts, and just overall tendencies. So game planning is very important. Now, the two areas that hitters can immediately change to make better swing decisions, because you can't always just fix a bat path overnight, or just completely overhaul your swing. But the two things that hitters can do right away is they can swing more, so become more aggressive, or swing less and become more passive. And that's something that you can do right away. So maybe you're somebody who is striking out a lot, but you're taking pitches early in the count. Well, you can improve your swing decisions by becoming more aggressive right out of the gate, or maybe you need to become more passive. So those are two things that players can do right away. And then other factors for certain players, it's going to be based upon their personality. Some players need to think expand the zone. Some need to think shrink the zone. And then lastly, it's the level of play. So depending on the level of play is going to determine how we go about emphasizing certain things to certain hitters. All right, so now we're going to talk about some examples of players who have improved their swing decisions. So here is one with Elly De La Cruz, and you can see his is in 2023 he came up, just took the world by storm, and his average OPS, they were okay. He started off really hot and got a little bit cold towards the end, but you can see the difference to 2024. And look specifically at the bottom, the middle swing percentage. So the pitch is right over the middle of the plate. He is now swinging at 10% more of those, and which has allowed him to really hone in on what he's looking for. And so he is now chasing less pitches outside of the zone. So his chase percentage is down 6%. So he's become more aggressive, and then he's at the same time he's become more passive on pitches outside of the zone. And what that's led to is his increase in OPS, and some of the statistics that judge overall performance a lot better. So that's a great example of someone who has become more aggressive and then also passive. And how, going back to Elly De La Cruz, is he's made these swing adjustments, these swing decision adjustments, and short term it's hurt him a little bit. What I say short term is nobody's has more strikeouts looking on pitches outside of the rulebook strike zone than Elly De La Cruz so far this season. And so I wanted to note that, because there's times where short term you're going to lose in order to make yourself better long term. And so let's think of it like this way. Had he reverted back to what he was always doing when he got called out looking on strike three, even though that pitch was outside the zone, if he had said, started to hit the panic button and do what a lot of us do, then he wouldn't have the same amount of success he's had so far this season, because he would have went back and just done what he's always done. But because he was willing to take some of those pitches that were a little bit borderline and actually were balls, even though he was rung up on them, it's helping him become more productive over the long haul. And that's going to be level dependent, of course, because the strike zone's a little bit different depending on the level you're at. But I just thought that's important to note. And I think this is nothing new. If you look back at Ted Williams, he had showed this famous diagram, and it's like, where is the 400 at? It's right in the middle. It's right in the middle. And you notice what the last three guys we gave, the examples we gave, they are now more aggressive on pitches right over the middle of the plate. And that's where you do the most damage most of the time. And Ted Williams said this, all those years ago. So we don't need to overcomplicate this. Be aggressive on pitches over the middle of the plate. A couple of different things that I thought were interesting. If you look at even at the major league level, what's the swing percentage for hitters outside of the strike zone with two strikes compared to an 0-0 count? So an 0-0 count, 17% out of the strike zone, two strikes, almost 40%. And then the highest chase rate at the major league level is a full count, so 44.4%. So even at the major league level, guys get to two strikes, they start swinging at stuff that they would never swing at. And so sometimes what I'll tell hitters who have this issue is if it's an 0-2 count, I'll tell them to flip it to 2-0. Tell yourself it's 2-0 because 2-0 you aren't swinging at crap outside the strike zone. You're just not doing it. And so that's something that I'll tell with certain hitters who swing way too much outside of the strike zone is just flip the count in your favor if you do have two strikes on you. And speaking of two strikes, there's different two strike approaches. One's not necessarily better than the other. So there's shrink the zone. So for the players who expand way too much and get so antsy up there, I'll tell them shrink the zone. There's other players who they need to think expand the zone, and that helps them because they're just not very maybe aggressive early on. That's never been one I've actually never. I haven't had too many players I've had to emphasize expanding the zone to two strikes, but I'm just throwing it out there because I'm sure that has helped somebody. The third option is to just not change anything at all. Two strikes. That is an option. And then the last is to make a physical change. Change how you set up, you choke up, you spread out. The thing I will note is in my own experience, I remember having to, we were forced when I was playing, when I was younger at a certain level, we were forced to spread out and choke up. And that was the worst I ever hit in two strikes because it took away my athleticism. I never practiced hitting in that approach. And if I did, it wasn't very much because just at the time, I never even thought of it. So if you're going to make a physical change with two strikes, make sure that you practice it like 50% of the time because you're going to be in a two strike count about 50% of the time too. So that's something to note. But I would say for the majority of the hitters out there, I actually think shrink the zone with two strikes is probably a better approach. And if you want to know the best two strike approach, it's be aggressive on pitches right down the middle. 0-0. Be like we saw earlier, middle swing percentage. Make sure that you're ready to do damage right out of the gate. You'll decrease your strikeouts. The next thing is culture that I want to talk about because I think culture plays a very big role in helping hitters improve their swing decisions. I thought when I was with the Baltimore Orioles, I thought they did a really good job of this because everyone was bought in on swing decisions and the overall vision of helping players improve swing decisions. So even if a player wasn't necessarily swinging at a pitch that they could do damage with. We didn't necessarily get on them or yell at them right away, or if they took strike three, but it was a ball off. We applauded them and they were rewarded in the system for making a good swing decision. So culture is very important. If you have a coach who every time a hitter strikes out, or they have the fear of just striking out looking because they're afraid of getting yelled at, that's not going to be good. Like they're not going to ever make that jump and to be able to make very good swing decisions because they have that fear of getting yelled at in the back of their mind. So next, I'm going to talk about a curriculum that I built for swing decisions from 9U all the way up to the major league level. So if you look at the younger levels, under 12 years old, I think just aggressive. You just preach being aggressive. Don't want to get in and talk about approaches too much or honestly anything. Keep things very simple and you just preach swing hard. Their brains haven't fully developed. Your brain doesn't even fully develop. The frontal lobe doesn't even until you're 25 years old. So just can't handle a ton of information at one time. So keep things very simple. Applaud them for being aggressive. I think that's the main thing. And the older they get to that 12, 14U range, I think it's important to start what I just call planting seeds on building an approach and being aggressive. And then once they get to that 15U to 18U level, it's about focusing and swinging at good pitches and having some self-awareness. And that's something that I at least preach to the kids that I work with is how important it is to understand what you're doing, having a plan, because I think at the end of the day, hitters need to become, to need to know who they are more than anything else. That's what they need. They need to understand who they are and their strengths and areas of improvement. Get to college, you'll have some data, and I think that the data is important. I don't want to. I don't like overwhelming college kids with data because they have classes, they have the social aspect, and so they're not at the professional level yet where they can just go and just do nothing except baseball or softball all day long. So that's something to note. And then at the professional level, like it's all about game planning, practice design, and that's a lot of fun. And I'm currently working on some things to some content to put out about game planning, and we'll talk a little bit about that more in the end of this episode. But so that's just the curriculum that I would have for developing swing decisions from 9U all the way up to the major league level. Getting a little bit more specific and talking about just some drills that you can do. One drill that I like is just putting a medicine ball, as you can see right here, right behind home plate. And I like this for a variety of reasons, just because it's kind of a symbol, if anything else, that hey, we're always thinking about swinging at strikes and taking balls. And so if a hitter takes a pitch and it's a strike, it's going to hit the medicine ball, and that's just instant feedback for them that they should have swung at that pitch. And so it allows them to self-teach themselves too. And then also you can move it in and out if you're working on a specific part of the zone. So I like that. I'm a big fan of it. We've all probably seen the 7 balls across home plate before. So if essentially what this is if someone's soft tossing to you or flipping to you, it's like, hey, that you call out what number that the ball crosses, or you can also say like, hey, we're only going to hit balls 3 through 6. Again, this is going to be based upon the level of the player, because younger players they can't handle all this information. So this is just level dependent. And then lastly, if you have the luxury of having something like a HitTrax or some sort of technology that can instantly track where the ball is in the strike zone. This is how I use my HitTrax more than anything else. Is as soon as the ball crosses home plate, you can see where it's at on the screen, and so hitters can learn the strike zone instantaneously when they take a pitch versus when they swing at it. So that's something that you can do too. And the last thing that I want to show when it comes to drills is this swing decision game. And I really like this a lot because I think anytime we can gamify something, we can put numbers to something, players like that. And I think if you buy into this game, it's going to make your players more aggressive early in the count and then be more selective later on in the count. And so the game works like this. So when a hitter takes a pitch over the middle of the plate, they are deducted 2 points. Okay, so there's ways to get 2 points and then 1 point. So you get negative 2 points if you take a pitch over the heart of the plate, because again, we want them to swing at pitches over the middle of the plate, be aggressive. If you take a pitch that's still a strike, but just outside the heart of the plate, you're deducted 1 point. And then if you take a ball, you are awarded 2 points. So anytime you take a ball, you're awarded 2 points. So if you, and again, this is going to rub some people the wrong way. So just understand it's level dependent. But if you're somebody who to take strike 3 and it's 2 balls off home plate, that's a hitter I would reward with 2 points, because there's nothing you can do with that pitch. And two, I don't want them to get in the habit of expanding the zone that much, because then they start swinging at pitches left and right with 2 strikes, and they become less of a threat. So short term, that may help, but I don't think over the course of their season, that's going to make them a more productive hitter. So negative 2 points for a pitch over the middle of the plate, negative 1 point for just off, but still in the strike zone, and then plus 2 points anytime they take a ball, no matter the count. Now, on the flip side, when a hitter swings at a pitch, they get plus 2 points for a pitch over the middle of the plate. I like this a lot because hitting is about failure. And so anytime we can give a player a reward and just we can get small wins, I think is very important. So I want to reward them, even if they hit a rollover ground ball or a fly ball, whatever it is, swing and miss. If they swing at a pitch and it's right over the middle of the plate, plus 2 points. With that said, if it's just off, but it's still a strike, still in the strike zone, they get plus 1 point. And then anytime they swing at a pitch outside of the strike zone, it's negative 2 points. So I think this game, and this is something that you can just have a chart behind home plate, have somebody behind home plate, and just chart it. And it's not that difficult. Pitchers to chart their own pitches as is. And so this is I can put together. I'll probably put together a template that you can just print out as a Excel as a some sort of Excel sheet to do this. That's what I've done in the past anyway. So it's just a simple swing decision game, makes it fun, gets kids rewards, getting small wins, and it helps them become more aggressive. Because if they know if they don't swing at a pitch over the middle of the plate, they're deducted points right away. So making this part of your culture, I think could be very beneficial, especially at particular levels of the game. Lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about game planning. So, game planning, this is something that you can do at almost every level of the game. It's going to be different based on what you have access to and the players you have. One of the things that I loved that and rest his soul, Mike Brumley, when he was on the podcast about a little over a month ago, Mike unfortunately passed away in a tragic car accident. But one of the things that he had said on the podcast is, he had said, when they're facing a very nasty pitcher, he would instruct guys to look for one specific part of the zone, and that's it. And if it's not there, you take no matter what, no matter if it's a strike or what or nothing, you just look one specific part of the zone. And I love that. So I think that's something that no matter the level you're at, you can do. The older you get, you have data like this where movement plots and talks about I can show different pitch shapes and you need I think it's important to educate players on how to go about reading these movement plots. And I'm working on doing a video on getting even more very, very specific on how you go about reading these and things like that. But for this one, I just wanted to just show that it is important, and it's part of game planning is understanding the movement plots, how the pitches move, and also what part of the zone are they specifically working towards. Are they somebody who is constantly throwing in the lower part of the zone, and so we need to set our sights a little bit lower? Are they a little bit higher? So if you have heat maps, that's something that's going to be important to have as well. And then I think it's important to know lastly that this is the over the past several years, since 2015, the percentages of pitches that pitchers have thrown. And you can see right here, if you go to the third row towards the end, the fast sinker percentage, was 57.1% in 2015. This year, in 2024, it's 47.5%. So since 2015, in less than 10 years, pitchers are now throwing fastballs less than 10% of what they were in 2015. So 10% less that they're throwing fastballs in 2024. What does that mean? It means you need to make sure that your hitters are working a lot on hitting the off-speed pitches. That's what it means. Hope you enjoyed this one. My name is Patrick Jones again. Feel free to check out my website, patrickjonesbaseball.com. All the content that I've ever put out, I put it on there via the newsletter, the podcast, everything. Hope you enjoy this one. Please subscribe and please share it if you enjoyed it. So thank you, and we'll see everybody next time.